All right, folks. Sorry about the little bit of delay there. We are, I believe, live as of right now on Shiver's stream, and of course, it's a little bit of a inmates running the asylum type situation here. As this is Starladder Day 14. This is Shiver Gaming, but unfortunately, you don't hear Shiver. My name is Vikrmond. I've been co-casting with her for a while. We also have Kanaz. Kanaz, how you doing?
I've been better, but I'm doing okay.
Right. So you are sick, right? A little bit.
Yeah, the rampant temperature changes usually do terrible on my sinuses, and I get sick.
Are you having rapid temperature changes?
Well, it's just outside
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
last few days. I mean, you live pretty close to me, I
I
think,
do. It's been pretty
relatively.
rampant.
Yeah, it's been all over the place. So I got sick, and I'm
Fair
getting
enough.
over it.
All right. Well, hopefully you get better soon. At any rate, Shiver is actually out at a party. Do you know more details about this than I do? It's like a costume party.
Yeah, she was kind of vague about it, and I think that was purposeful.
All right, all right. Well, Shiva is at some sort of masquerade ball, is what I'm going to go with. And while she is at the masquerade ball, meeting all sorts of European princes and other royalty and what have you, we are here at Starladder. The first game of today will be NEXT.kz, who are now sponsored by Ahead, so let's call them Ahead Gaming, and Rock's Kiss. So both these teams have played a few games. NextKZ actually have already played through half of their season, so they've played 8 games. They're 4-4. Rock's Kiss, they've only played 4 games. They're 2-2. So both teams winning about half their games. This has been a very tumultuous season of Starladder in general. Not a lot of teams have sort of convincingly won a lot of games. Most everybody has mostly split their games, so definitely still an opportunity for either of these teams to make a run for the playoffs if they want to. Kanaz, what's your impression of these teams so far this season?
Yeah, I think it's one of the big stories is how even everyone's record is realistically. Both NextKZ and Rocks, for example, you just mentioned, are sitting at even records going into this season. I think NextKZ have looked pretty okay in the matches I've seen them. When they've been doing well, they've been doing very well, and then there's games where you're watching them and you're wondering what they're doing. And I think that's been the case for a lot of teams right now. I don't know if it's just sort of some roster shuffling going on. We could see even these teams not really the same players that they had just a few months ago. Maybe everyone's just kind of getting used to playing with each other, working out new strategies, and some of them just don't quite work, and they end up dropping games.
Right.
But it's going.
Yeah, definitely. Rock's Kiss certainly a very interesting team. They've been going. Wait, why? What's wrong with me? It's not Rock's Kiss. It's Empire. First, they have the tag of Rock's Kiss, and I was like, I don't remember the schedule being like this. I thought that it was a different
right.
team, and then I look over at the names. My God. Well, all right. So of course it's Empire. They're trolling me with their team name, and I got so confused. And internally I was like, well, I guess I'll just go with it because I hadn't looked over to the side of the screen. But of course it is Empire. Empire have actually done pretty well this season. They've been playing an all-out aggressive style. They are running, of course, Silent in the carry position, and when Silent was on Quantic, he was sort of an all-out aggression no matter what hero he was on. So usually they would give him heroes like Gyrocopter, like Weaver, and he would just really, really go for the throat with those. And that's what he's done with Empire as well. And Empire has always had this sort of early game aggressive style that Scandal really likes to play as well. So even though most of the roster has changed over, like they have very few carryovers, it's still a situation where they still play sort of this very, very aggressive out-and-out style. So NextKZ, on the other hand, are much more of a conservative team. I feel more often than not they just run a 4-protect-1 around Mantis, with him picking something like Anti-Mage or even Tiny or Spectre or something like that. This isn't always the case. And in fact, Wadafaka, who's unfortunately... Oh no, he is here, so he's playing as WTF and then an emoji and a trademark symbol. But this has really been Wadafaka's season, I've felt. Every time I see him, he's doing something very remarkable on Dragon Knight or Storm Spirit. So with this clash of styles, one team sort of going very aggressive, one team being a lot more defensive, do you think that at face Empire or NextKZ are favored against each other, or is it just a matter of execution?
10 seconds remaining.
I think now that I'm thinking, realizing it's
5
Empire
seconds
playing
remaining.
with
Yeah,
the
sorry
Rocks
about
tag,
that.
and I'm super confused. I don't wonder why they did that. I think I would favor this new Empire lineup a little bit. They haven't looked necessarily as strong as maybe we would expect them to be looking, considering the players who are on the team. But I think I give them a little bit of an edge, but NEXT.kz could very easily take the game, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think that Empire's impressed me a little more than some of the other new rosters. Like, they have managed to adapt pretty quickly and have at least a recognizable style, whereas some teams, like we're watching, the next game will be Ublist versus Virtus Pro. Virtus Pro has really struggled this early on to adapt their new lineup and really have everybody on the same page as far as what they want to do, whereas Empire, I feel like at least they come with a strategy. Maybe it's a little scrappy sometimes, maybe the games can get a little bit chaotic, but they have a plan and they want to stick to that. And they add Puck, so Scandal Puck, not as well known as his TA or what have you, but it is still a very strong pickup. I'm also interested in this early Lone Druid. We've seen Lone Druid not drop off the face of the earth, but definitely not be picked up in the first phase. Is there a particular strategy that Empire have in mind with this, or is this just Mag really wanted this hero or something?
I think it's hard to tell. I could see Mag wanting to play the hero. I think Mag usually does do very well in the Lone Druid, but it's definitely not a hero we see picked up very often early on. You're right. Some teams really favor the hero and like to sort of rely on him as a backup farmer who can lane in a variety of ways, but definitely not an early pickup, and maybe they're going to go for a pretty heavy farming strat with him and just get another big carry here and just kind of try and weather the storm. Since you're, like you mentioned earlier, NEXT.kz typically do go that 4 protect 1-ish sort of strategy. Mm-hmm. Just having the 2 carry line, it might be what their plan is here, and they're going to rely on Lone Druid and another to just sort of push through what Mantis brings late game.
Do you think this is a safe lane Lone Druid?
I think it's really hard to tell right now. Naga Siren's certainly a support that can end up going into an aggressive tri-lane, but until we really see, I think, the farmer and the last support, one of those two at least, you'll get an idea of it. But with what NEXT.kz is doing, they could pretty easily aggressive tri-lane in this as long as they're not super concerned about the Chen in the jungle.
Right.
There's always the risk when you go up against Chen. He's not going to be in the lane typically as much, but he can be. Sure. And if you really want to stop him from getting that farm in the jungle, being in that aggressive tri-lane could certainly do a lot of work.
Yeah, it's interesting that NEXT.kz is filled out with the Magnus. I really thought that they'd just be sending Wadafaka in the mid with Storm Spirit, and I guess they can still do that, or I suppose maybe it's a Magnus off lane. At this point, I'm not quite sure. Empire, for that matter, takes the Mirana. This is looking like a support Mirana that throws arrows into Naga Siren's net, although I guess it could be a tri-lane farmer Mirana, and I can't remember if we've seen Empire run Mirana as a tri-lane farmer, but I guess it's an option. With this Magnus pick and Mirana pick, I feel like we're the lineups are getting a little more unusual. The teams are trying to psych each other out a little more, I think. What's your take at this point on these lineups?
I'm pretty surprised about the Mirana pick. You're right, it's hard to tell exactly what they're going to want to do with it. I think, maybe them running it in that aggressive tri-lane, and then just go with the safe lane Lone Druid.
Sure.
And try and go with it that in particular route, but I don't know necessarily if that's going to work out exactly as they want to, depending on what NEXT.kz do. It's pretty easy to block arrows with Chen creeps, realistically, as you're trying to go for those ganks. And yeah, it might end up working out. Magnus is also a pretty surprising pick, though. He's a hero that's really fallen off the map from being like top tier, always picked, first or banned in the first phase sort of hero, and now we see him next to never.
Magnus is interesting, yeah. Like, there was an overhang, too. Like, after all the nerfs, people were still picking him all the time, and then he just sort of slowly charged his way off a cliff. So much so that I feel people are even picking Enigma now rather than that. Actually, Empire is one of those teams that has been picking the Enigma. Not a huge surprise from NEXT.kz here. We knew that they wanted to fill out with a big carry for Mantis. This is what they almost always do. Here it'll be Anti-Mage. Definitely has a lot of potential to carry this game. Empire, for that matter, has... Oh, we are getting everybody disconnecting. We might have a remake, I suppose?
Yeah, they're going to fix the team tag, they said.
Oh, okay, because that was really grim. I'm really glad they're fixing the team tag, actually. Thank goodness. All right, well, we're going to go into this remade lobby in just a second, folks. Sorry, you're going to get a little bit of peek behind the curtain here as we remake. Let me give a shot to showing the brackets. I don't know if this will work, but it would be very remarkable if it did. Okay, well, it's not quite working the way I wanted to, unfortunately. But at least you can see the standings, even if you can't actually see the whole bracket. You can see that Empire is actually 3rd right now up here, and then NEXT.kz is down at 5th. But those are both pretty good standings. Of course, this early in the season, you have to be a little wary with stuff like this because, of course, not everybody has played all their games yet. Na'Vi are currently 15th out of the 16 teams in Star Ladder, but I don't think anyone seriously believes that Na'Vi will end the season in 15th place. It's just that the standings are ranked in order of how many points you've accrued. So actually, Poseidon, even though they're ranked 1st right now with a 5-4 record, are actually in quite a precarious position, simply because of the fact that they do have already 4 losses, whereas Kaipi, who are in 2nd, for example, have no losses. And of course, Alliance, who are down in 7th because they only have 9 accrued points, have 0 losses as well. So some cause for concern for teams like NEXT.kz, who currently are in playoff contention, but could wind up in trouble if, depending on how things fill out. So, Kanaz, now that we've seen all 5 picks, we definitely see the massive arrow setup on Empire with the Shadow Demon, Naga, and Mirana. But as you mentioned earlier, I mean, there's a lot of capacity for NEXT.kz to dodge those arrows, whether it be with Chen Creeps, whether it be Storm Spirit just trying to zip out through them. We did see a combo from Kaipi the other day with a Naga Siren Song into Mirana Arrow, where the Storm Spirit wasn't even able to dodge it. He didn't have time to blink. But they do have multiple blinks. They have Chen Creeps and they have Magnus for a big team fight. Has NEXT.kz drafted a lineup that will be able to protect Anti-Mage enough?
I think it's pretty hard to say, but this is definitely a powerful lineup, and they can play that game where they're going to just run around and try and distract from the Anti-Mage for as long as possible. Both Magnus and Storm Spirit are heroes that are very good at sort of running that sort of strategy. It'll really come down, I think, to Empire's execution and being able to set up these ganks, particularly if they're relying heavily on the arrow, which it looks like they are just from what they ended up drafting. If they can get those arrow ganks off and get the kills early, it could be very powerful. If they don't, it's probably going to look pretty silly when this Anti-Mage gets really farmed.
Sure. Alright, well, with that in mind, we'll take a look at if NEXT.kz or Ahead Gaming will actually be able to pull it out and get the Anti-Mage, get Mantis to a point at which he dominates the game. On the Dire side, we do have Ahead or NEXT.kz. Wadafaka on the Storm Spirit. Looks like he'll be heading to mid. That'll put Stalcat on a solo lane as Magnus. We'll see if it's... Oh, I actually... sorry about that, folks. Looks like I don't have open mic because I'm a scrub. Alright, thought I fixed it, but then I restarted Dota and it unfixed itself. Stalcat on the solo lane as the Magnus, and that leaves the tri-lane to be composed of Mantis on the Anti-Mage, supported by Reeves on the Rubik, and Equal on the Chen.
And for Empire on the Radiant side, we're going to have their safe tri-lane. Maybe? No. I don't know what they're doing at the moment. They have Mag down there in the Lone Druid, though. Scandal's currently down there in the puck. Probably see him in the middle lane. And Vanskor hanging out on the Naga Siren. It looks like Always Want to Fly on the Shadow Demon going to be heading towards the top lane to accompany Silent, playing the Mirana. So Vanskor looks like he might be running maybe some pulls on this Naga in the bottom lane. Oh, it could be that too. Just dropping some wards to try and defend the Lone Druid and then head towards the top lane.
Might be a little while for us to get the game started, folks. Just they had the exchange that we had. NEXT.kz has a guy with 200 ping, and Empire has 2 AFK players. So, oh dear, we might fall a little bit behind schedule today, as it's already 18:26, and we have played -1 minute of this first game. Sorry, folks. We'll get started as soon as time and the status of the teams permits. Can you make a note, Kanaz, for in-game spectators that they can switch broadcaster on and off to be able to hear me better?
Sure.
Alright, so it does look like... do you think this is more likely to be just Mag, Safe Lane, Lone Druid, and then the aggressive try of Shadow Demon, Naga, Mirana top? Or is this the return of the 2-1-2 that we've been seeing recently with Naga trying to get levels by pulling the jungle?
I don't know. When I saw Naga go down there, my instinct was to say it's going to be 2-1-2. You pointed out the wards. It's possible that she's just going to ward and go up towards that top lane, but I'm not really sure you need to ward that bottom lane that much just to defend the Lone Druid, particularly since it seems obvious it's going to be just a Magnus down there.
Right.
And if you're running the aggressive tri-lane, then they're not going to really just completely ignore Anti-Mage and just kind of sacrifice him to your tri-lane.
That's a good point.
So I think they're probably going this 2-1-2 strat, and they're not committing that hard on the Anti-Mage, maybe because the Chen's there and they're thinking he won't be as big a factor. I'm not sure if that's true, though.
Yeah, I mean, Chen certainly doesn't have the all-out aggression of an Enchantress at levels 1 and 2, but he is able to deal a pretty respectable amount of damage just by running in Test of Faith. If you have, say, a Dark Troll Warlord, Shadow Demon could end up in a lot of trouble. I think Mirana should be able to get away just with a leap. I mean, there are trade-offs with a 2-on-2. It's fun that we're talking about it since it really disappeared from the scene except in very weird games for a pretty long time, years. I think the last time 2-on-2 was a serious laning configuration was 2009, or maybe, no, I thought 2009 or even earlier sounds right. And of course, the downside is that this dual lane Mirana Shadow Demon won't have that much punch to it. It doesn't have a lot of ways to kill. It can't do a lot of damage, it can't defend itself, so if Chen is very active, if Equal is able to pressure a lot, then Empire's dual lane isn't going to do that well. Now, the upside is they'll be able to earn XP, in theory. The dual lane won't be as starved as an aggressive tri-lane would be on XP. But it looks like, yeah, I mean, not that surprising that they're sending Vanscore up here, because I really do think Shadow Demon Mirana, we're not talking about, like, Abaddon Undying or something here. Like, it's not something that's where the dual lane could just beat every tri-lane. It looks like Silent, by the way, setting up for this, Arrow block. Did you watch that game, Kaipi Fnatic?
No, I didn't see that. He's blocking the pole camp with the arrow?
Yeah, so if you can land an arrow, is he going to do it? No, it looks like he's not going to bother. Well, actually, no, I guess he has 28 seconds to make up his mind about whether he wants to. But if you take arrow first, yeah, the actual existence of the arrow in the spot can cause a successful creep block. And we saw Kaipi do that twice in a game recently. Meanwhile, NEXT.kz ahead, exercising a rotation, sending a tri-lane down against Mag's Lone Druid. What do you think about this choice?
I'm not necessarily sure how it's exactly going to work out. Oh, they're sending down the anti-mage as well. So it could be okay. Anti-mage might get some farm, but Lone Druid's pretty resilient in this safe tri-lane. I don't know how much pressure they're necessarily going to be able to put on him. And this tri-lane in particular is awesome at killing, I don't think.
Meanwhile, Stalcat taking a little bit of damage. He was disrupted. The arrow lands. He takes some damage, but he's already under tower. Once again, this dual lane doesn't quite have enough punch to chew through the entire Magnus HP. They do get him to use his healing salve, but Stalcat, down on regen, but still alive. The first blood doesn't come for Empire. You were telling me about this. I guess it's really a 3v2, because Vanscore is once again down here. So, Naga and Lone Druid versus Anti-Mage Rubik with support from a jungling Chen. Any opinions?
Yeah, I think the tri-lane's probably going to come out ahead just because of sheer numbers, but I'm interested mostly in how much Vanscore and Equal are going to be playing footsies with each other in the woods here, trying to sort of see who can get the best advantage out of it. Vanscore obviously wants to pull on this Naga if he's going to be down this lane, but Chen, if he's just kind of camping in this jungle, can do a pretty good job of disrupting that.
Sure. Interesting, is this Observer Ward, this spot, does this actually block this camp? It does, right?
I think so.
Huh. So, definitely an unusual choice of Naga Siren to be blocking her own jungle, but that's what you do when Chen invades. You try to cut off his ability to actually farm that jungle, and Equal, it doesn't seem like he can quite decide what he wants here. He's sort of hanging around. He's, of course, sent the Harpy Stormcrafter into the mid lane to be an incredible annoyance to Scandal. You can see Scandal actually completely out of both mana and HP, just has to send over his bottle to actually get up there. So, but Chen, yeah, it looks like Equal is going back. I guess you have to say that this is an advantage for Empire, that they successfully deflected the Chen pressure.
Yeah, if you can sort of make it so that the Chen isn't really doing anything in the jungle, just kind of moving around and wasting a lot of time, it's very, very good for you. And since they are running these 2-1-2 lanes, they are going to be getting the advantage in terms of experience if Chen is just kind of wasting time.
Sure.
If he's farming the jungle efficiently, then it's not working out so well. Looks like they're going on the top lane again.
Yeah, Stalcat actually charges back, and once again he's at tower. He's used 2 tangos, so he still has a few more available. He did have 2 sets to start out with. They threw out Soul Catcher this time as well, but again, Silent and Always Want to Fly, they just lack that critical element of the extra damage. Mirana has extremely low base damage. He wasn't pooled, I don't believe. No, it doesn't look... Oh, he was actually pooled a little bit, but not enough to the point where he would do a lot of damage. And in the middle, the Harpy Stormcrafter continues to be just an incredible pain. It's got 2 more lightning calls available. Sorry, Chain Lightning. Well, actually, it needs to regen. Nope, Chen is just going to take another creep. But it's done its work. You can see that Wadafaka is actually at 18 for 5 in this mid lane, and Scandal only at 14 for 3. Doing well considering the amount of Chen harassment that's been coming in, but Wadafaka is still a very comfortable lane for Storm Spirit this early. Is Storm Spirit the X factor here, Kanaz? Oh, actually, maybe we have some action. There's a net being thrown out on Reeves. No, the Bear can't really do enough to do that. And actually, Bear has been taking a respectable amount of damage as well. Sorry, Storm Spirit. Can Storm Spirit just blow this game open if he has a good enough early game?
I think that's always kind of the case with a Storm Spirit on your team. He's just so good at that initiation range going in and getting those pickoffs that normally would be very difficult to really get. So if Storm gets a good lead, he could definitely do a lot of work. I think Puck is not a terrible matchup for him though, and can kind of do some of the same things, especially sort of in the mid game, since Wadafaka is going to be limited by his mana pool. So I think if it goes even, it'll come down to really how they're able to affect those side lanes, and I think the advantage that way goes to Scandal just because they have the dual lanes. It's easier to gank into those side lanes. You have more people around already.
Sure.
But certainly Storm can also do a lot of work, and if they get a few kills on that Bear, it can be very strong for them.
Yeah. And I guess the other factor is Puck against any intelligence hero like Storm Spirit or Queen of Pain. The silence is a big X factor. It's going to motivate Storm to pick up BKB maybe a little more early than he otherwise would have. I doubt this is the sort of game where you go BKB first on Storm, but certainly it'll be in his thoughts as he approaches his second or third big item. Doing a little bit of an inventory on the farm, Mantis actually only at about 19 for 5, so he and Mag are essentially coming to a draw in this lane, whereas in the top, Stalcat has been able to get a little bit of farm, he's been able to get a little bit of levels, halfway to level 6 now, but Silent definitely having no issue. So Empire are effectively farming up 3 players, the Lone Druid, the Puck, and the Mirana. What's the timing window that Empire are looking for to try to take a big advantage?
Well, I think they have 2 real options. They could try and go for about a 20-minute mark right before Anti-Mage is really finishing any big items, particularly because he's in this sort of off lane against the duel versus duel where he's not getting a huge farm. They could try and take advantage of that by going some fast items on this Lone Druid, or they could try and go kind of late game and build up a big item on the Lone Druid, as well as some additional items on the Mirana. I kind of expect them to go for the faster, more aggressive route, just based on how they typically play.
Sure.
So I'd say around probably the 18 to 22 minute mark, they're going to be trying to move around and start probably getting some of these towers down.
All right, 18 to 22 minutes. Put the clock on. That's 12 minutes from now. Let's expect Empire to really try to put the pressure on us. Of course, Mantis, he's only got, he actually has Ring of Regen, so I guess this is probably for Tranquil Boots. Here comes Wadafaka, though. Up to always want to fly. Nice defensive disruption immediately, and the Soul Catcher. Arrow to follow. Storm Spirit taking a lot of damage. Stalcat, he doesn't have mana for reverse polarity, but always want to fly. Takes another hit. He'll go down. Net thrown out on Wadafaka. He's going to turn around. Silent in a little bit of trouble. He's going to walk back towards tower. Wadafaka has DD. He dives under the tower. Takes out another 2 kills. A double kill for Storm Spirit to start out the blood in this game. Wadafaka, will he be chased down by Scandal? Scandal's here, throws out Dream Coil, throws out Waning Rift, and the Orb. Wadafaka's still alive, but Entangle, and one more Puck auto attack will be Empire's first points on the board as well. And we end up with 2 for 1. NEXT.kz with the first blood and another kill. Basically just the rune control telling there for Wadafaka. He had picked up basically every rune up to that point because Scandal was tied to the base due to Chen creep harassment, and picks up a double kill there, does die eventually to Puck, so not a terrible situation for Empire, but their dual lane still unable to score a kill on Magnus. How important is it that they haven't really been able to kill Magnus? Not a big deal, or he has hit level 6, or 7 I should say.
Magnus isn't really getting any farm up in that top lane. He's got like Bottle and Brown Boots, not even enough for Arcanes or a Blink Dagger in the near future. He's getting a little bit just through Shockwave spam, but not much of anything, so not killing him isn't a huge deal, since they are only committing 2 heroes to the lane, and that's really just the Shadow Demon there to make sure Silent feels kind of safe on the Mirana. If they had committed the full aggressive tri-lane, they weren't able to get these kills, which is possible they still wouldn't have been able to just because of how powerful the charge is.
Sure. Yeah.
Then it would have been a lot bigger of a deal. But I think because it's the dual lane, it's not quite as bad.
Right. Fair enough. And definitely the presence of the Naga Siren helped Mag do a very good job in this bottom lane. He really didn't fear anything from the anti-mage and Chen Rubik, because Chen was chased out. Rubik, of course, deals essentially no damage, and anti-mage's damage is not going to be amazing either, especially against a bear, which has no mana to burn. Reeves, though, he's actually holding on to an invisibility rune. Maybe they're going to try to make a gank on Scandal happen. He's very close to the tower, not quite in detection range just yet. He's got to do a little bit more walking out. Oh, Scandal. I think he actually did spot him, because he face shifted. It looked like Reeves actually started the animation for telekinesis, and Scandal face shifted it. Was he just too close? I think he might have, when he walked here, Scandal might have seen him.
Yeah, I think he was just in range of the reveal. Or he maybe right when he was going for that telekinesis, he just peeked his head into the range. Mm-hmm. He was very close, and it's difficult, particularly on the Radiant side, because the tower reveal range is very close to these corners. You have to really, really hug it. So I think he maybe just poked his head in, just enough for Scandal to see.
Silent. Takes a Mana Void, but level 1 Mana Void, not the most impressive of spells, of course, partially because people's mana pools are not that impressive at that point, so he walks away with 80. He'll be sent back to Fountain. This will be some time bought for ahead, as Scandal Silent was actually the top farming player on the map. And Mantis, he's actually in a bit of trouble here, and I don't know if he realizes that he's only at 300 HP, and Vanscore and Always Want to Fly, ready to try to make something happen here. They walk up to the lane. There's the disruption. Soulcatcher to follow. Will land on Mantis, but he blinks away, and a nice telekinesis from Reeves disrupts the combo. Mantis, he won't be farming, but at least he escapes with his life, and he's actually built out power treads, and so was the Ring of Regen just for regen? Do you think he'll, because he's on Dire side, do you expect an early Vlad's?
I sort of think he was originally planning on going for the Tranquil
Oh,
Boots.
Wadafaka gets picked off in the middle. Not even arrow needed. They just managed to lock him down with a very well-timed Waning Rift. And then just layering on the entire combo. You can see that Mirana, Silent actually has maxed Star Storms. That's a lot of extra damage thrown out on Storm Spirit. Sorry, I interrupted you while they were killing Wadafaka. What's up?
Yeah, it's certainly fair. Yeah, I think he was originally planning on going for the Tranquil Boots because he was net off laning, expecting maybe a little bit more harass to come out.
Right.
It didn't end up working out that way, so just having the casual Ring of Regen for some additional HP regen early was all he really wanted to go for.
Fair enough.
Now he's probably going to transition into that Battle Fury, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a shame that he's only starting it now, because he just got his Ring of Health, and it's 10 minutes and a half. So this is going to be a very delayed Battle Fury. It'll take a while for Mantis to take this game over. So in some respect, Empire have already done a lot of what they wanted. They sort of forced this Anti-Mage to take a fairly conservative build and slowed down his Battle Fury timing. And right now, he's not farming at all. Look how unsafe Mantis feels, and he's correct. He's absolutely right to feel unsafe, because there is the entirety of the aggressive tri-lane we thought they might run hanging around here, and now Mantis is really in danger. There's the disruption, Sacred Arrow to follow, it lands. Where's the ensnare? It will follow, and they pick off Anti-Mage. An important kill for Empire. 3-2 now, Mantis back at square one with this Ring of Health. I guess Wadafaka going to have to carry quite a bit of freight this game, because he's going to have to buy all sorts of time.
Yeah, it's impressive how effective this combination is against Anti-Mage in particular, since he relies on Blink to escape. When you disrupt him and the Anti-Mage illusions come out and you get the instant stun from the arrow, you can almost always burn most, if not all, of his mana off just with those illusions. So even if you can't kill him during that disruption time, oftentimes he's kind of just stuck there, and he's a very frail hero when he can't just blink away. So it's working out pretty well. You're right. Storm Spirit's going to be a very, very key hero for Head Gaming to really take control of this game back.
With the benefit of 2020 hindsight, was Anti-Mage a little bit of a trap pick from Empire here? Because they have so many anti-Anti-Mage tools, and they had them even before the 5th pick. Like, Ensnare prevents blinking if it lands on you. They have the capacity to hit the arrows from Mirana. They have Puck Waning Rift, where if he knows where Anti-Mage is going to be, Scandal can just jump right on him and prevent blink. Should they have gone besides Anti-Mage, or is it fine to go with the Anti-Mage and it's just a matter of really careful positioning?
I think you can still go with the Anti-Mage against this particular kind of lineup. You have to be aware that it's going to be difficult, though, and try and get him that safe farm. And since they weren't really able to do that, they tried to avoid what they thought was an aggressive tri-lane. Didn't really work out that way.
Ooh, Wadafaka tries to jump in. He gets ensnared. Scandal in a bit of trouble as well, though. Moonlight Shadow. I don't think there's detection available for NEXT.kz here. They're trying to chase Empire, but with the protection of the Moonlight Shadow, Vanscore and Scandal get back to Fountain, but they're still being chased. Here comes Wadafaka. He's silenced again. He's run all the way in. Stallcat's here. He throws out a very well-placed Shockwave. That's enough to kill Puck. Puck actually buys back Shadow Demon on the ground as well. Wadafaka, they want Vanscore. Another Shockwave for Stallcat. That'll be most of a Blink Dagger, but Wadafaka gets picked off by the returning Scandal. Rubik dies as well, and now Stallcat's on the run. He really wants to save up for this Blink. He does not want to die here. Another Sacred Arrow available in 2 seconds. Stallcat, he's sent back by Chen. He'll go all the way back and equal. Probably fairly safe here, holding on to this Medallion of Courage. This does imply to me that they're going to sneak rush sooner or later, especially if they can get some towers, but a Puck buyback there in order to kill Wadafaka. Worth it?
I think it's probably a decent thing to do just because of how key Wadafaka is to their game plan right now. Storm Spirit was starting to get a little bit of momentum, particularly in that mid lane, getting all those kills. So picking him off, making sure he loses a little bit of it, wastes some time.
Sure.
And if he had any unreliable gold, just kind of drop that as well.
Yeah.
Definitely, I think is worthwhile for the Puck to be doing now.
I think I agree with you. I mean, Wadafaka has multiple times threatened to just really go on a spree. Like, he got that double kill right at the beginning, and then immediately Scandal picked him off. And this time he dove very deep to ensure that 2 kills happened, the Shadow Demon and Scandal. And so, yeah, I agree. I think Scandal's decision to buy back definitely vindicated since he was able to get the kill. And he's basically at the same last hits as Wadafaka, and because he only has 1 death instead of 3, he's keeping up even though he's been part of fewer kills. So Wadafaka's been part of every single kill that Ahead have, which, as you said, is really important to their game plan. Whereas Scandal has been part of 3 of 5, but he's keeping pace on net worth, and he's holding down Wadafaka's Orchid, which is what he's rushing, and he doesn't quite have it yet. 14 minutes, he has 1 of the 2 Oblivion staffs necessary, plus Recipe. But one nice thing that Ahead are building up to is Stallcat, because he participated in 2 kills there, he now improves to 2-0-3, so he's also been part of every kill. He has his Blink Dagger after this creep wave. Does this change the conditions of the game at all? Does it make it more scary for Empire, or... I guess they'll probably be expecting it.
Yeah, they should be probably aware after Stallcat was able to kind of move around and get a lot done there that he's going to have that Blink at least soon. But
Wadafaka, he wants Mag. There's the RP throw now, but they don't necessarily quite have the damage. Dreamcoil comes out. Waning Rift. Wadafaka goes down. Stallcat in trouble as well. He won't make it out of this alive. Doesn't even throw his next Shockwave. And wow, immediately after the Blink Dagger, they actually really take a pounding. In fact, even Mantis is harassed back into Fountain, sent back by the Chen Test of Faith, but because I think he ate an arrow disruption Soul Catcher arrow combo also. So, wow, Empire, not the greatest start for them. One really interesting thing is, here's a blast from the past. Check out Mag's item build.
Yeah. I just was looking at it as well. I was going to point it out. Armlet on the bear. Not a thing we've seen recently.
Not even on the bear. It's on Papa Bear.
It's on the hero. Very strange. Very strange.
So,
but yeah, that was what I was going to mention about Magnus. Is he doesn't do damage anymore. That's very relevant right now. They don't have a lot of damage. And that used to be kind of the big deal, was how strong RP is.
That's true. Magnus, oh, Reeves just eats an arrow to the face and Silent picks him off, basically trivially. And Mantis, he really needs to just eke out every single inch of farm, but it's so dangerous he ends up blinking into the trees. They actually know exactly where he is. They might blind arrow? No, they don't have anybody to chase, but... yeah, Armlet Bear. I mean, I actually have been thinking about this lately. Armlet Bear feels almost a little underrated to me. Like, sure, it drains your life, but it still gives you all those big bonuses. It just drains life. So if you're comfortable with that, especially if your team can build up a mechanism, it might not be the worst item.
Yeah, it's certainly not as good as it was when it didn't drain the life. You still got all the bonuses, but it can still be a very powerful effect. It gives all of the stats you want on Bear. All the arguments you can make for why people were building it on the Bear before are still applicable. It's just that now it drains HP, so you have to be a little bit more careful. You can't just leave it on the rest of the game and say, well, deal with it.
You certainly cannot. That's why you go Heart Bear, of course.
Heart Bear, yes.
Not generally done. Although, did they do it in that 100-minute game? They built every item. Every item in the game was built in that game. Actually, sadly enough, no. Neither Veil nor Atos were built, which is a tragedy, Imo.
No
But
Veil, no Athos.
I don't know. The items are so good. But I think, as you pointed out, yeah, Stallcat, he was level 10 at that point. Oh, Equal gets hit by an ensnare, trying to use his Chen creeps to screen, but instead it just leads to a horrible death for those creeps. Uses his ultimate, but Shadow Demon ultimate is on him as well. Tries to trade off for Silent at least. Actually, the sleep will cause the Shadow Demon to not do any damage with the Purge. Here's Wadafaka. This could get very scary in a jiffy. Always want to fly, already on the ground. Mantis picked up by the Starstorm. There's RP! Vanscore in trouble. Mag trying to get out of the fight. So is Scandal. Mantis is actually already on the ground. Will they pick off the bear? The bear is down, but Stallcat and Wadafaka, they're taking too much damage again. Mag with the armlet, just getting that critical extra measure of survivability. And now Reeves trying to make his way out of the fight, but he's being chased by an angry panda and an angry Scandal. He uses a stolen Sacred Arrow to stun the panda, but the insect creature he's not so lucky with. That'll be definitely a favorable trade for Empire. It looks like 3 for 4, including the anti-mage. Troublesome for NEXT.kz.
Yeah, definitely not a fight that went in their favor. They used the sleep into arrow combo actually to kill off the Chen there. I don't know if that was necessarily super necessary because he was dying anyways, but
he would have died to Purge. Maybe they just wanted the style points, I guess.
I mean, style points are always worth playing for. Top lane, though.
Always want to fly. We'll just get killed immediately by Wadafaka. This is, of course, the power of Storm Spirit. He can blow up your squishy supports, and Shadow Demon, a legendarily squishy support. Maybe the squishiest one. Nah, Keeper of the Lights. But Keeper of the Light has Blinding Light, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, he has Disruption, so
that's
kind of same power level as Blinding Light for keeping yourself alive.
Sure.
And you don't have to, like, pop your ult.
That's true.
Yeah, it's very easy for Storm to pick off these supports. Vanscore even is taking
but there's the ensnare. It was a trap. Wadafaka gets blown up by Scandal, and Scandal is just preying on Wadafaka here. He's like, I know you're having a good Starladder season, but I'm one of the best mids in Europe. I'm going to show you how I feel it's done. And this is a problem. This puck is now 2 levels ahead of Storm Spirit. What do you do as Storm now? Just try to finish your Orchid as fast as possible?
I think he's really committed to that route, and he has to go for it. Otherwise, he's just going to have a lot of items that don't really do too much waiting around.
Arrow and Snare. Mantis is a captive audience. Here, there's the Riptide being thrown out. Will they rotate? Somebody stolen Sacred Arrow? Does not hit. Reeves has been getting some good steals. There's Stallcat attempting a Skewer Fish. They use Moonlight Shadow to cover the response, and no success for NEXT.kz here except maybe the tower. And actually, Mantis, yeah, he's got to be careful. Always want to fly rotating over, so is Mag. It looks like they might push down the middle if they can't find out ahead. Ahead, meanwhile, running away, and they're splitting up. Smart move by them. Equal just going to pick up a couple more creeps in the jungle, and it looks like they're home free at this point. But yeah, not a very stable position for NEXT.kz, definitely. What do they have to do?
I think securing Anti-Mage's farm is very important for them right now, but Mantis really just hasn't had any success with getting anything up. He's still several hundred gold off of finishing his Battle Fury, and it's going to be like 21.5 minutes in before he's got it finished, and that's a real late Battle Fury time. Even figuring he went for Treads first, that's very, very delayed.
Yeah, 20 minutes. Still half a Void Stone away. They haven't been able to sneak Roshi even with a very early medallion for Chen. I mean, this medallion was 1,000 gold that could have gone to a mechanism, which they don't have. So clearly they felt like they might be able to seize a little bit more control with Wadafaka than they've been able to. And I think that has to come down to Scandal. He's been very effective at neutralizing this Storm Spirit. So is there something they can do about trying to nullify Puck's influence in the game, or is it just about playing as safe as possible and getting anti-mage farm?
I think there's some amount of strategy that comes into playing safe. A lot of the ganks that have occurred on Wadafaka on this Storm Spirit have been counter ganks where they've kind of just baited him into going, and then suddenly Puck's there and they get the kills. And that's been working very well for Empire. Maybe they could try, or Ahead could try something in that vein as well, since Storm Spirit is obviously the target in this game, and rightly so, of Empire. They can maybe try and just have someone around available for him, because like I said, here it goes again. Puck's just gonna rotate to this top lane and try and go in.
Yep, there's the silence, there's the Dream Coil, a couple more auto attacks, and it's enough. That is worrisome when Puck can kill Storm Spirit that quickly. I mean, he did have the benefit of the DD rune for some extra auto attack punch, but they get the deny. They get another kill on Wadafaka, and Storm Spirit, I mean, they do finish the Battle Fury for Anti-Mage, but Storm Spirit really striking out. He's now down to 4 and 6. 700 or so off from his Orchid Malevolence, and starting to look a little grim for NEXT.kz.
Yeah, definitely. Storm is just such a key hero to their strategy, and he's not really having the success he needs for this to end up working out. They're kind of just sitting around not accomplishing a lot, and Empire, while they're not necessarily completely out-farming them, they're out-farming them at least a little bit, and Anti-Mage isn't having the success he needs where he's just going to be able to say, well, I'm so big, it'll be okay.
Arrow misses Mantis by a little bit. Who spoiled that shot? Well, in that case, it was a ranged creep, but I don't think it would have hit him anyway. Silent, he is actually pretty farmed himself. I mean, you mentioned that they're out-farming them. They certainly are. 3 players with higher net worth than Anti-Mage. Now, of course, Anti-Mage's net worth hopefully will experience something of a ramping effect now that he has the Battle Fury available, but Mirana has Yasha and a Perseverance, which I guess is probably Lincoln Sphere. And then Mag, of course, has his Armlet that we talked about already. He's added a Basher since we last commented on it. And Scandal is more than halfway to his Scythe of Vice. Here comes Wadafaka. He's curling around. He's in these sort of copse of dire trees. He peels back a little bit. They do have this Sentry Ward, so they see this Moonlight Shadow as it walks towards them. Mantis chased under the tier 2 tower. Will Empire look for a fight? It looks like it, by the way, Mantis building that Vlad's they still really want that Roshan. They feel like it can. Oh, they get the kill on the bear. Chen creeps, eats the Sacred Arrow, so they lose the benefit of that Centaur Warlord, Centaur Conqueror, sorry, but they are able to avoid that hitting Reeves or Stalcat. Stolen Spell by Reeves will be a Rabid, it's not too much of a deal, and Empire looks to be peeling off. Decent defense for NEXT.kz, they don't lose a tower, Wadafaka's still waiting in the wings. Looks like it might be a 5v5 fight coming up, though, so we have, of course, Empire. Oh, the attempted Skewerfish doesn't catch anybody. Very, very close for Stalcat there. But they know where Wadafaka is. They spot him out with a Naga Illusion. He's forced to use his Ball Lightning to get back. And the pressure on the tower comes out. Armlet activated for the bear. Here comes Wadafaka, but he's already silenced. There's the Illusory Orb. He's in a lot of trouble. The Chen Ultimate comes out. Wadafaka is still alive. He's actually sent back to Fountain. Maybe a bit of a miscommunication as he was jumping ahead when that happened. But the tower falls. There's the Ensnare. Will Entangle come up? Stalcat fakes an RP, decides not to use it. Smart decision there. Wadafaka's back in the mix. Kills always want to fly, but he sounds again. The RP whiffs. The RP whiffs. Stalcat wasn't able to blink into the spot he wanted. Ends up completely wasting that spell, so they only get 1 in exchange for a tower. Was that just a misclick? It didn't seem like he was even close to anyone.
I think he might have been trying to get Puck. Puck was like sort of close, but he wasn't close enough that that was ever really going to hit. And Puck is not the ideal target for solo RPs anyways. You're
Meanwhile,
kind of just setting yourself up
Scandal. Here he comes on Mantis. The orb, 1 more hit. He manages to bring down Mantis. These DD runes for Puck are, well, I would say they're almost winning the game. I mean, they've led to 2 kills, especially the one on the Anti-Mage as he's trying to farm. So, was he going for Scandal in that fight, and Scandal just blinked out, or used Phase Shift, or what happened?
I think Scandal just walked out of it.
Wow.
I think he was going for Scandal, and Scandal was just not quite close enough. That's what it looked like to me, but I don't know. But the big thing is that Mag actually lost his bear again.
He did lose it twice.
He's keeping the armlet on his hero for the most part. I'm not really sure why he's doing that.
Well, he's using the armlet definitely to push with the bear, I guess, and other than that, maybe he's afraid that if he drains the life down too far, there'll be too much pressure thrown on it, because you're totally right. I'd phrased that fight as a tower for 1 player, which is never worth it when it's a tier 2. Like, it's worth it for a carry, but not worth it for always want to fly. But Kanaz, you brought up a great point. They got 2 bear kills. So it was actually 600 extra gold for a head coming out of that fight. That's 600 gold is actually kind of a lot. So yeah, you make a great point with that. Now that they have Vlad's, they don't have any tier 1 or 2 towers, so it's not going to be the easiest thing to take this Roshan, but will Aegis shift it in NEXT.kz's favor a little bit?
Yeah, I think if a Roshan can go their way, it's certainly going to be a very good thing for them, especially if they put it, I kind of expect it on Storm, just to sort of mitigate him getting ganked so much, since he really does need to start to build a little bit of momentum here.
I agree with you.
Now that he's got his Orchid done, maybe he can start getting these ganks off and won't be as easily killed off by Puck, and maybe even able to kill Puck himself. But it looks like Empire are aware that that's probably their plan, and they're setting up shop near Roshan themselves.
They are, and they've got the medallion up. The bear is whacking Roche with all of its Ursine fury, and it looks like Roche is falling quite quickly. This is a shame, as I did buy that Vlad's to try to get this. It'll help in team fights as well, but Roche dropping very precipitously. Mag looks like he's just going to mop this up. Will they jump in? Here's StarSeries. He misses the skewer once again, and a nice Naga. Actually, Storm Spirit did manage that steal. They didn't get the Naga sleep in time, but Mantis, he's stunned up. Sacred Arrow still lasting. What a fuck already with a double kill. Buyback from Scandal. Mag and Scandal on the ground. Always want to fly now in trouble. A little bit more damage is necessary. What a fuck. He's basically out of mana. Mana Void almost completely useless, but a couple more auto attacks will do the trick. StarSeries, no RP, and they still come away with a major victory there. They managed to seize the Aegis for Wadafaka, and they pick off 3, including Scandal, who buys back. Oh, nice Sacred Arrow on Reeves. Will Silent look for the kill here. Throws down the Starstorm. Chen Test of Faith will be sending Reeves back already. And a tower, 3 kills, a buyback, and an Aegis? Are NEXT.kz just back in based on that one fight?
That's a very big fight for them to take, and I don't necessarily know if they're just completely back into it, but they definitely are much closer than they were previously. There's still a little bit of a lead on Empire's side, but they can't afford to give up fights like that.
I agree.
They lost pretty much everything. They got the gold from Roshan, that's good, but everything else that they could lose, they lost in that fight.
Absolutely, yeah, they got the gold from Roche. We saw this, a couple people got some nice prizes from that. But, and that was with a Magnus completely whiffing. Magnus had no impact on that fight. He threw out a shockwave, I think, and I guess you can technically consider the fact that he put Empower on Mantis beforehand as impact, but I mean, he missed the skewer, he did an RP, and they still won the fight convincingly. I guess they would, with an RP that actually landed, maybe they would have been even more. And you can see Empire, they're very nervous about what just happened. They immediately transitioned to Smoke Gank. There's the Purge onto Equal. This will be a very easy kill. He does use Mechanism to try to keep himself alive, but with no... Oh my god, he's actually still up. Here comes the turnaround. Scandal dies. He's already used buyback. What a fucka chasing in. He gets disrupted, but always want to fly in a little bit of trouble. Mantis will not be able to blink because that Naga sleep is up. What a fucka. He doesn't have that lasso. They don't manage to bring down Shadow Demon. Actually, that could have gone way, 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 way worse for Empire than it did. Nice defensive play, but they actually don't pick up Equal, which I'm shocked by.
He got away with 1 hit from death. Just any auto attack would have killed him from pretty much anyone on their team.
Right.
But yeah, Equal is able to get away. They end up losing Puck, and that's Scandal with no buyback. That's a lot of time that they're just not going to be able to really do much of anything, and they're starting to get that momentum in the Storm, in the Anti-Mage, and once that happens, I think NEXT.kz could be in a very, very good position in this game.
Yeah, I agree with you, and Scandal, his farm, hasn't just flatlined, it's gone completely moribund. He was only about 700 off from Sheepstick when the Roche fight started. So he had enough, I think, for the Mystic Staff, and he would have just needed to add the Void Stone. Now he has less net worth than Wadafaka because he got 3 deaths, including a buyback in between. Sorry, I should say 2 deaths, but a buyback in between as well. So that takes him down to 1.1k, so he still has to build up 2,500 gold. I feel like that Scythe of Ice could have completely blown the game open, and instead he's very, very far away from it. That's, yeah, Empire, the Smoke Gank, you have to say, ended up... Even though it could have gone worse, it definitely ended up quite poorly. But Mag has even died. Okay, so Mag's died once. He has most of an Assault Cuirass. In fact, he's very close to finishing it. Can Lone Druid just carry this game for Empire? Do they not have to? Do they not have to rely on Scandal being as dominant as he was earlier?
Yeah, I mean, they could certainly just kind of rely on Lone Druid to carry the game. He does have more farm than the Anti-Mage, and Lone Druid's the kind of hero where if you take one team fight, which Empire are very capable of doing, he can just melt the entire base.
Right.
Basically in the blink of an eye. So we can still see that happen very, very certainly. It's just a matter of who's going to play a little bit sloppier, because a lot of the plays thus far have been somewhat sloppy.
Shots fired. But no, it's been definitely a pretty scrappy game, some odd team fights, but very interesting on the whole, I would say. About 1 kill a minute. Here comes Wadafaka, charging in on Scandal, but this is trouble. They have used the Naga song, and the BKBs for Stalcat and Wadafaka aren't ready yet. In fact, Wadafaka takes a big Waning Rift. That'll be Aegis used for almost no purpose, as Stalcat didn't cast any spells. Wadafaka immediately bashed by the Lone Druid Bear, and what an excellent RNG gaming that was, as Wadafaka brought down and the Aegis. And you mentioned sloppy plays. That dive was, I guess, pretty much the definition of sloppy.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of reason for them to even go that far behind that tier 2 tower. There's so much risk that you're just going to run into 3-4 heroes and die. That's exactly what we see happen. They buy time for Animage to get a tier 1, but losing your Storm and your Magnus, that's not what you want to be doing at this stage of the game.
Storm and Aegis. You use the Aegis that you just got like a very short time ago, 5 minutes ago for, I don't know. Mantis does finish his Mantis style, so we will be seeing some Mantis style going on here, and that'll be nice. Meanwhile, it looks like a trade for Empire. This Lone Druid Bear pushes pretty quickly, lest we forget the lessons of the big DreamHack tournament that the 2GD studio was casting. Bears do not care about your ability to split push in fairly colorful terms.
Yeah, Bear is pretty good at split pushing. If you just want to like race, Bear will almost always take that trade because he's going to just melt your towers, and it's going to take you a little bit longer. But yeah, it's still a very close game. It's a good fight for Empire to take, and they even don't get that trade on the tower ahead, just aren't able to take down the tier 2, which isn't really surprising. Lone Druid is just so much better of a pusher than Animage. Animage is a good split pusher, but Lone Druid
Sacred Arrow. A little bit speculative. They don't catch Mantis with it. He manages to blink away, and he was in a world of trouble there, so that was a very, very well-timed blink for Anti-Mage. Manages to get out some nice offensive wards placed by ahead here. They really want some vision of this jungle in case Anti-Mage decides to farm it, or if they want to farm both. And Empire, yeah, I feel like they feel a little bit on the clock. Now, the pickup of that Aegis and the kill on Storm Spirit and Magnus, I really do think that that put Empire a little bit ahead again, whereas maybe they had been, after the big Roche engagement, they had been tending towards evenness. But they want to pressure, they want to sort of put a little bit of pressure on the tier 3s in particular, I feel, because that would really... if they could get a set of racks, or at least even a tier 3, it would put a lot more pressure on NEXT.kz with the Storm Spirit, who just finished his BKB, so it'll be very effective against the sort of puck shenanigans that have been going on, but less effective against a Lone Druid Bear that has 2.3k on top of a full Assault Cuirass, Armlet, and Basher. Is it Abyssal next for Mag?
I don't know if he'll go for the Abyssal. Abyssal's certainly a powerful item, but you can't use it on the Bear. That's true. So
oh, what a fucker. They find Silent. This will be an easy kill, as of course there's 4 people down here, and he does have this Orchid to shut down the ability of the Mirana to leap away. That's a nice kill. Mirana's still sitting on Manta, Perseverance, and I guess one of the problems with this Princess of the Moon is Manta and Perseverance isn't quite enough for her to become an auto-attack threat. She's still mostly a spellcaster here, and so the BKBs coming out, Magnus is quite close to his as well, are definitely going to be a problem for Mirana to contribute against. So what's the plan for Empire? Is it just to generate a lot of push pressure with the Bear?
Yeah, I think that's really got to be their game plan, is just to try and pressure these towers whenever ahead, try and go for anything anywhere else on the map, and that looks like what they're kind of doing, but the Bear's wasting a little bit of time. They're going to give this tier 2 away for basically nothing right now. Not even pressuring the top or middle lane heavily at this point.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to push into even the tier 3. Mantis putting a little bit of pressure here. There's the ensnare. He dodges it perfectly with the use of his Mantis style. Very nice use of that item's ability to, during the transformation time, dodge most debuffs. So that's a little bit of pressure on the tier 3 generated, and it is NEXT.kz generating it rather than Empire, despite the early advantage accrued onto the Lone Druids. So cause for concern, I think, if you're Empire, that they really can't avoid Anti-Mage just using Manti Illusions to harass 500 HP at a time off this tower. And the next Roshan is up in about a minute and a half. I guess we could see a pretty major confrontation there. 3 BKBs for NEXT.kz by that point. Is that enough? Does that give them the big advantage for the Roche?
Well, I don't see any more BKBs really coming out, but yeah, I think with these BKBs it's going to be pretty good for them because, like you mentioned, Mirana really doesn't do that much right-click damage right now, and they don't have much of anyone besides the Bear who's doing right-click damage at the moment. They're mostly just spellcasters, so if they pop those BKBs, they could definitely just sort of position themselves very, very strongly in the fight, run in, and focused on the heroes they need to, and then once that happens, they can leave the Bear for last, realistically, and just focus him down once everyone else is dead. I think these BKBs are going to work very well until Empire is able to get a little bit more damage on somebody, probably more.
Mantis getting very bold here. He's in a little bit of trouble. There's lots of TPs coming in. He gets the tower destroyed, and he blinks away. Very nicely played by him there. And actually, that buys a little bit of time as they just take a tier 2 tower. Meanwhile, Wadafaka jumping in on Vanscore. Vanscore taking a little bit of damage. There's the electric lasso. Doing more. He uses BKB for it remarkably. Really wanted to get that Naga kill because, of course, that puts Vanscore on the ground for 40 seconds. No buyback. And here comes Roshan ahead with a very excellently played additional amount of pressure. That was, I was confused about the BKB. It makes perfect sense. Killing Naga versus not killing Naga is free Roshan versus a Roshan where you would have a lot of trouble. But it looks like maybe Empire amassing. They might try to do this even without the Naga. It's a little bit too late. Mantis already takes it. They're pressuring this bear. It's stuck in the pit. That'll be a bear going down. 300 gold goes to Storm Spirit. 3k on top of his BKB. And wow, Empire. It really seemed like they almost had this game in hand, but I don't know. Demon Edge built up for the bear. I guess this is probably an MKB.
Yeah, it might be just predicting the butterfly that's going to come off from Anti-Mage eventually. If he's thinking that particular route. I can't imagine any of the other items that Demon Edge goes into
I don't think
are going
crit.
to be selection. The crit bear is kind of awkward, and rapier bear is really awkward. So
damn, rapier bear is. I think we saw rapier bear at a pro game. I can't remember when it was. They just had nobody else who could right click, so it's like okay, well we'll do the rapier bear.
It's real good at killing towers.
It sure
real
is
good at killing towers, but it's also very good at getting itself killed, especially when there's all this physical damage.
Although I have a question for you, Knez. If the bear dies, it doesn't drop rapier, right? Or does it drop rapier?
I believe it does.
Okay, well that is pretty concerning because the Panda Bear gets a little not so tanky later on. It's big HP.
I think if you
no
resummon it before it dies, it doesn't drop it.
Ah, okay, makes sense. But if the hero dies, there's the tier 3 tower. Hold that thought. As ahead, they really want to take these Raxes. Here comes the Moonlight Shadow. Disruption is up on Anti-Mage. We'll have to keep an eye on us. Stalkat has already used his BKB. He wants an RP. He's currently entangled. Here comes a very nice Song of the Siren. They pick off the... Oh, no. There's the Aegis gone for Anti-Mage as well. And already the Magnus is on the ground, not having used RP. Equal once out. Here's Wadafaka jumping in. He uses his BKB as well. But Reeves is already on the ground. Wadafaka's running out of HP. Equal's in a bit of trouble. Mantis trapped inside of an entangle. He gets brought down. 3 on the ground. 4 on the ground. Wadafaka, will he make it out? No! It's a 5-4-0 wipe for Empire, and they get the Aegis down. 5 kills. No deaths. And that is the power. I mean, I don't know if people read the essay about how Alliance uses Naga Siren, but one of the greatest aspects of this hero is your ability to isolate a BKB target with Song of the Siren. And they isolated the hell out of Stalkat. Theory crafting, is it, if they had gotten the RP, could they have won that fight?
I think if they get the RP, they could certainly win the fight, just if they're able to get a couple heroes down, or at least low enough that they're not able to commit quite so heavily.
Right.
But if they don't get that RP, which obviously they didn't, then they end up in a really, really poor situation. And now their tier 3 is being pressured.
Yep.
They still have all their spells, though. The Naga Siren is on cooldown.
They don't want to... Mantis doesn't want to buy back, but he's going to trade a tier 3 tower. He actually buys back, but quite late. He could have bought back earlier to try to save the tier 3. Bear is in the air. They might use a lasso on it. They really want this bear. It'll give them another 300 gold. That'll go down. 300 gold going to Anti-Mage, so he defrays the expense of buying back, but 2 buybacks was the price for NEXT.kz off a push that they were surely thought, oh, there's the Moonlight Shadow, wraparound gank from Empire. We know that this team likes to be aggressive. Scandal jumping in. Stalkat already isolated. Once again, Magnus gets nothing off. Wadafaka, he's in BKB. They want Silent. They're bashing down him. But Mantis, he's very low. He has to get out of this fight. Soulcatcher is up for the extra damage. Stalkat uses his RP, but it's just on Mag. Storm Spirit is on the ground. 75 seconds for Anti-Mage, 70 seconds for the Storm Spirit, and the Magnus goes down for 60. The GG is the call for NEXT.kz, and 2 teams just slamming away at each other, and in the end, I don't know, Naga Siren MVP, or you still say Puck or something?
I don't know. I think Naga played really well. That fight was just so tide turning. It just completely crippled the head, and there was really